Hey, this is Dave from metalepidemic.com. Thank you for checking out our YouTube video. Please feel free to hit the subscribe button below if you like this type of content, and we hope you enjoy the review. What's up guys, Dave here from Metal Epidemic, back with another album review, and for this review Duncan Kyle and myself have been checking out the new album from Toronto-based post-metal four-piece Sarin. The band's new album, You Can't Go Back, will be released on February 5th via Prosthetic Records. So, these guys, from what I can find out, have been active since around 2012, and they've just recently signed a deal with Prosthetic Records to put out their third full-length album. This album was recorded at the Sugar Shack in London, Ontario, by Simon Larochette, and mastered by James Plotkin, who we seem to mention on every second review, it feels like. Clearly a very sought-after guy. I didn't know anything about this band. I'm not sure about you guys, but I'd never heard of Sarin before. So aside from the fact that they are a post-metal band, I didn't really know what to expect at all, really. Either of you guys in the know about Sarin, had you heard them before?
All I'm going to say is don't Google Sarin, because you will go on a watch list. As in Sarin gas, which is it's what terrorists use to kill people in mass kind of executions. So don't just be searching, where can I get Sarin? What is Sarin? How do you make Sarin? Any of those things, not advisable. Not that I'd never heard of them.
Fuck, close tab.
They're on at me. But like I'd never heard of them before. Interestingly enough, not what I was expecting. Like from the name and knowing the connotations of the name, I was expecting another one of Big Davey's death metal album picks.
Not this time, I'm afraid.
Kyle, were you on the no, finger on the pulse?
No.
I'm dead. Sorry.
Kyle says no.
Kyle's not saying anything that could be recorded and used as evidence against him after his recent search engine history, which he's frantically trying to clear the cookies right now, and that doesn't mean eat them.
Hey Google, how do you delete history? Oh shit, that answered.
Oh man.
I think out of the albums that we are reviewing this week, this is the one that required multiple listens before I could make up my mind and form an opinion on it.
Really?
And it's not because it's bad or anything like that. It just seems to be the way with me in post-metal. It's a genre that kind of slowly burrows its way into my head. It's very rare for me to have fully made up my mind on a post-metal album on a first listen, which is, it's probably partly down to the nature of the genre. It's often like comes with a lot of layers and a lot of textures to it, or the tracks can be a bit unconventional in terms of the song structure or the formula. But one thing I did like about this right off the bat was the guitar tone.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very kind of dense sounding. It's got a bit of a kind of crunch to it at the same time. And then, funnily enough, when I was looking at the band on their Facebook page, in their info, it said emotive, crunchy metal from Toronto. And it's kind of the perfect description for them, to be honest, because although the guitars do have a lot of kind of power and a lot of heaviness behind them, but at the same time, the kind of notes and the lead work that they blend in kind of balances out that like darker side of the band, almost gives it almost like an uplifting feel at times. And I think the production's very crisp sounding as well. I think that kind of elevates the whole lot of it as well. Actually, when I was listening to it, it reminded me a little bit of a band called, if you remember, a band called Servers from the UK from years ago. They're not identical sounding bands. Sarin are maybe a touch heavier at times, but they have a very similar kind of balance of that kind of like the heaviness, the kind of post-metal bits of sludge in there as well, but it's got a kind of emotional side to it as well. And that's not to say that every like track on this album is kind of balanced out like that. There are tracks on here where they just let the heaviness kind of take the reins, and like tracks like Reckoner, which was released as one of the singles, you know, that comes across a far more like colossal and kind of direct than some of the other tracks on the album. But as I said, I've usually got to listen to these types of albums a few times just to kind of get in my head, and I did enjoy it more and more every time I listened to it. As it takes me sometimes a little longer to connect with these types of albums, but once I heard it a few times, I really started to appreciate what these guys have put together on album number 3. It obviously has, like as I mentioned, it's got post-metal at its core, which I like, but they do mix in some sludge in there and some more kind of atmospheric and melodic elements into their sound as well, which in my opinion not only makes this a much more kind of varied and dynamic release, but I think it increases the memorability of the album. As much as I love their like heavier side, and believe me, there are some like really hefty riffs on this, but it was the moments that they infused the kind of more like melodic chords that really kind of stood out to me. There's a riff towards the end of a track called When You Melt on the album. It's got this real kind of groove and heaviness to it, but the chords that they're playing underneath it just make it sound so much more epic and kind of prominent. Almost had a little like kind of Arctic Sleep kind of vibe to it at times. Just the way they use the melody. One of my favourite tracks on the album was a track called Thick Mire, which is it's a completely instrumental track, and it begins, it's a very kind of tribal kind of feeling beginning with lots of kind of tom work and a kind of chugging like palm muted kind of riff alongside it. But at one point they single out the guitar and they drop the tuning of the riff. I think it's either via the kind of whammy bar or maybe just the old-fashioned way, but either way, it was a really cool moment in the track where I kind of stopped and was like, oh, that is really cool, and the heaviness really intensifies and it gets you kind of almost like more amped up about the track. The kind of rhythm and the tone, it reminded me, talking about all these bands that this reminded me of, but it reminded me a little bit of Fossils, who are a kind of instrumental sludge band from Denmark.
Two-piece, isn't that right? Two-piece?
Yeah, I'm sure it's a drum and bass they've got, but some of the rhythms on that track kind of reminded me of Fossils a little bit. What about you guys? What did you make of this one from Sarin? I've got a feeling this might be more in line with Duncan. Duncan, what did you make of this?
Yeah, I know you were saying you were like a couple of listens. I was about halfway through track number 2, and if you imagine me at the old gambling table with all my chips in front of me, and I was just pushing them all in. I was just like, all in on this one, guys, all in on this one. Oh, let me take the reins here and let me tell you why. Sarin, have my fucking attention. This is exactly what I want. This is 100% in the Duncan wheelhouse, because from the off, they are specifically doing things to make themselves stand out. You're right that it is at its core post-metal, but what it's doing specifically with those emotive guitars that you're talking about is adding huge amounts of texture into the tracks, like constant, and that's constantly evolving through the tracks. And just when you hear them play a particular chord sequence of this kind of melodic kind of lead work, you're like, oh, this is like, it can't get any more epic than this. Literally after the end of the next verse there's an interlude that comes in that's even bigger sounding, and they managed to keep it going. What I love about this band is the balls of this band to do so much without vocals. There are huge sections, like massive sections on this album where there ain't no vocals at all, and I'm assuming the front man, whoever it is that's doing vocals, plays one of the instruments in the band. Other than that, or he's having a lazy day in the studio. He's like, right, you guys just finished tracks 3 through 4. I'll come back at the end, because they finish the cold open, which is the guitarist. Is it? Right, there we go. So Cold Open's the first track, and it's like tons of vocals in there, and then When You Melt comes in, and that's the longest track on here. It's like 8 minutes, and I would say easily 90% of that track is vocal less. They don't have anything. I think there was some. Yeah. I think I thought I could pick out some stuff in the background, but to do that, I think is incredibly ballsy from their perspective, and it kind of put me on my back foot. At first I was like, was that just like a guest vocalist who appeared on Cold Open? Are they just an instrumental band? But what they do is, what was more interesting about that is how it managed to maintain my attention without that. Now, when you're given something at the start of an album, and then it's almost the reverse to how people do this technique with vocals in albums. If you're doing vastly instrumental tracks, from the off you don't have vocals on your opening track. You have it as instrumental, and then the vocals come in later in the album. And this is our guest vocalist who appears, or here we're doing it here. They do it in a different way, and I found that really, really interesting. And with you, Dave, a lot of what they build up in here with the guitar work is what sells it, but it has this real crunch behind it it's like feet on gravel, just awesome. And there are sections in here as well, mixing in, you were saying, sludge. There's little elements of Mastodon in here, which I really enjoyed. The production's earthy, it's grimy, it's gritty, it's like putting your hand in soil and bringing it out, and then trying to pick the dirt from under your nails. And if you don't use a proper utensil, you'll be doing it for weeks. And that's kind of how it felt. And the album just continually builds, and then it closes on "Leave Your Body," which to me is the song of the album. I fucking adored this, and it kept adding those melodic grooves on the guitar towards the end. And it's another track that has huge swaths without the vocals, but by God, when the vocals come in and you have those uplifting guitars in the background, hairs on the back of my neck were up. I think this is fucking brilliant, like absolutely brilliant, 100% what I wanted. I will say this, I'd obviously never heard of them before. Didn't know what genre I was going to get, because I genuinely thought death metal from the name. The artwork on the album gives away fucking nothing. It could be an emo band artwork, like from the way it looks. It gives away nothing. Even the lettering, nothing about the packaging of this band, I think, necessarily informs how interesting the listen is, and that's kind of awesome. I like things that are. We spoke about this on our kind of top 20 end of year podcast, where we were saying that band Eyes have one of the silliest album covers ever. It's just a guy with his head through a ceiling. And then you listen to it, and it doesn't prepare you for how fucking aggressive that is. And there's something great about that, putting in an album. It's like, I mean, if you've never come across Morbid Angel before, chances are you know how they will sound by the album cover. I had not a clue what Sarin was going to sound like, and it hit me with constant waves of things to get excited about. I think they're brilliant. I actually think they are brilliant. I love what they're doing in here, because a lot of post-metal can be cold. As by its nature can be very cold sounding. I think of even bands like The Ocean, which add those elements of warmth in there. Well, when they go heavy, it tends to be, heavy and clinical. But there isn't really a section like that on Sarin. They never at any point take away from, they get heavy as fuck, but they never take away from that idea that there's always a guitar injecting some level of melody into what they're doing. And it was a really rewarding listen for me. So yeah, I thought it was fucking brilliant.
Kyle, what did you make of this one?
When you've got a song called Cold Open, it is, and it's the first track, it's so descriptive of exactly what they're doing.
On the nose.
You're right on the nose, and I was like, I can appreciate that. Let's click play. And I clicked play, and I went, oh, this is a winner. So after 4 seconds, I was like, yep, sold, that's it. Just like me, just like you with the chips, just like, every single one, just take them all. It's great. No, echo everything you're saying. The songwriting is great. The guitar tones are fucking fantastic. The fuzz tones, and they're just getting all of that heaviness out of fuzz pedals instead of, overdrive and high gain stuff. It just, it works so well. And the end of When You Melt, I want to say, job well done. Like, I don't know what the hell they were doing, but I really loved that they pulled back on the vocals and let the music speak for itself as well. I really, really liked that. I was listening to it the first time, I went through it, and then the second time I had it on in the background, I was like, hang on a minute, it's been a while since we heard that dude sing. I like it because they kept it interesting. It wasn't just like one riff repeated over and over and over and it got boring with just a guitar solo. It was like they kept it really interesting what they were doing without the vocals. So I think it was a good idea to let the band shine that way too. Thick Mire is absolutely the best track on this. It's just that rhythm going through after it drops down with the whammy pedal is just it's so good. It's just like, yep, okay, I'm in. If they haven't sold you by that point will sell you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I loved it. I think the production is amazing. If it's not perfect, clinical, like you were saying before, it's not cold and precise. It's, you can hear that they're playing the things. The drums, nothing's aligned to a grid and Pro Tools or whatever. It's people playing instruments, and I love it. And it's got some hair on it. It's got some grit. It's earthy, as Duncan said, which leads me to think about all of the terms people use to describe music, and sat here being a producer, well, how would you define an earthy sounding band? This is it. So yeah, loved it, really loved it, really loved it. I'm actually thinking about going to buy their album. I know I got it for free, but I want to buy it because it's really good.
Yeah, I was the same as you guys on the kind of vocal side of things. I was kind of like, what's going on with the vocals? There's some tracks are just completely instrumental, and there's other tracks where they kind of drop in and out. But I felt like the kind of music and a lot of the riffs had like big enough hooks that it wasn't like detrimental not having the vocals play a bigger part. Like there's a track called Otherness, I think it's called, where a kind of large part of the track is completely stripped back, like clean guitars and lots of atmosphere and stuff. But it had enough going on that I didn't mind that there were no vocals on the track. And even when the track does, it kind of builds up into something heavier. The kind of lead work that they had sitting beneath the main riff was enough to kind of like satisfy your need for like a melodic hook. It's a very good album indeed. Lots of good things to say about this. I had listened to their previous album, Darker Lakes, and you can hear straight away that they've grown as songwriters over the last few years. Since that album, You Can't Go Back feels a lot more refined than their last release, and it feels like the band have like almost like more of an identity on this one, which I thought was brilliant. It's a really, as you said, Duncan, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's a really rewarding listen. Rating wise, what are we thinking for the new Sarin album? I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think I would probably go in at a 4 out of 5 on this one for me. Duncan, what about yourself?
I'm trying to not do what I did last year, which was as we just started recording and I was like that, 5s to everything, and you get a 5 and you get a 5 and up there you get a 5. I'm trying to avoid it. I am not saying that by the end of the year Sarin isn't a 5-star for me. I can see me listening to this one a shitload, but at the moment I don't want to go all out. I pushed all my chips in, but you know what? I kept a 0.5 back for me, just in case. It's taxi fare, just in case I lose my house. The wife divorces me. Keep that taxi fare there. So yeah, 4.5. I think it's damn near there for me. I genuinely feel that when we do our midpoint podcast, if I'm not, if Sarin's not in my 10 at the halfway mark of this year, we are having an incredible fucking year. Just in general, I think it's that fucking good. Any band that is so confident to say, you know what, the vocals are just another instrument, just another element of instrumentation that can be used at the correct times as opposed to all the way through the track, is a band that I think is instantly taking a gamble, and the gamble totally pays off in this one. It's fucking great. 4.5 out of 5 from the sky.
From the sky?
From the sky!
4.5 from the sky. Kyle, what about yourself?
I'm going with a straight 4. It would be a 4.5 or a 5 if it were longer. 6 tracks was not enough. It's a 4. I hope I can count. That is 6, right? Yeah, 6.
Yeah, it's 6. It's 33 minutes, so 33.
Yeah, I know, it's great. I love when a short album is so long. It's fantastic. Like, you see 6 tracks in like 6 tracks of 3 minutes is going to suck, but no, you get through it and it's like, that was a worthwhile listen. So yeah, 4 out of 5.
Nice.
4 out of 5. Nice. That is Sarin. You Can't Go Back, out on February 5th on Prosthetic Records. If you want to check out the band, it's facebook.com/Sarin official. Put a little link in the description below to the band and to any pre-orders or streams available for the album. Let us know what you think. Happy to hear your comments. If you've heard any singles or once you've heard the album, let us know what you think. Thanks for checking out the review. Much appreciated. We'll be back very soon with another review, but until then, take care. We'll speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.